time I get on that website, that forum,
What's
someone is,
I keep putting it on there, but it's like,
are other communities not getting the word that it's not open?
Well, we've sent it to all the communities, so I don't, if you can just keep sending out what you
we
have.
must be so much denser in Holden than other places because I don't think the word's really getting out.
Yeah, but how many times do you see the same person?
Asking the same question
You know,
Well, last night, she was
from the high school.
Mhm.
I don't know if she was asking for students. You commented on it. Who was she?
Lisa Baker.
Yeah, Lisa Baker. She's with the high school or with the school, isn't she?
She's a technology coordinator at the school district. And
But she was asking if there was any Wi-Fi
hotspot.
hotspots in Holden area.
If it is, most of your restaurants and business places have hotspots for Wi-Fi too. Probably not the only ones in town.
Are Jeannie and Amanda and Allison logged on?
Yes, yes.
Okay, that sounded like Allison and Amanda, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I think the only one we're waiting for is Jeannie. Because we knew Fern was going to be unable to attend.
Jeannie said she'd be.
Warrensburg.
Is Jeannie gonna be in person?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting in order.
You can start the recording. Allison and Amanda have called in. They should be listed as callers. They just said that they were there. We just heard them.
Yeah, we can hear them, but they're not listed among attendees. But if they can hear us and we can hear them, then I suppose they're here.
All right. Do we have any public comments?
We have to.
Uh,
Roll call. I'm sorry. Carlin Dillon.
Here.
Georgia Jarman. Here. Ron McMullen.
Here.
Judy Tyler. Here. Scotty Walker.
Here.
Judy Walter.
Here.
Allison Burton.
Here,
Amanda Travis.
here.
Jeannie McGowan. She is not here in attendance. And Fern Deathridge, we knew, is not attending.
Do we have any public comments?
No, we do not.
All right. Moving on to the consent agenda. Any questions or discussion on any of those items?
I have a question. Did everybody get their hard copy?
I did.
This is Karen Churn. I just wanted to make sure everybody got their hard copy.
I
Yeah.
did. Alex,
Okay.
Yes, I did.
All right, excellent. Thanks.
I move we accept the consent agenda.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Ron, a second by Georgia to accept the consent agenda. All in favor?
I have to do a roll call vote.
Oh, that's right. You said it already.
Allison Burton,
yes.
Carlin Dillon,
Yes.
Georgia Jarman,
Yes.
Ron McMullen,
Yes.
Amanda Travis,
Yes,
Judy Tyler. Yes. Scotty Walker,
Yes.
Judy Walter,
There, yes.
The motion passes.
All right. Okay, unfinished business.
Okay, so we put together something regarding our proposal for the digital van so that you would get a better idea of exactly what we would be using this mobile library for. We hope it gave you a better idea of the financials and the community impact. We also took a quick survey to gauge interest in the digital van service, and the results were overwhelmingly in favor of it. Sarah can talk a little bit more about that. One of our community partners that was listed in our proposal, Missouri Valley Community Action Agency, is applying for a grant for $100,000 of CARES funding to share with us toward the purchase of the van. While there is no guarantee that this grant will be awarded, we know that funders really like to see organizations partnering. So we're very confident about the chances that the project will be funded. Does anyone have additional questions?
You said you took a survey. Who was surveyed?
Sarah?
We did a survey on Facebook, and it was shared many times. So it was just a kind of an informal survey, and it was just to anyone. We did get some patron replies with contact information for follow-ups.
But you don't have an actual number.
Of a number of what?
You don't actually have a number.
A number of the.
A number of
Responding
responses?
or-
Yeah, give her the numbers.
Okay, so we had 52 reply in total. And I can go through it all. So the questions on the survey included, do you think the community would benefit from mobile library services such as a bookmobile? Out of 52 replies, we had 48 yes, 3 no, and 1 maybe if library is not centrally located. Then we asked a bit of a broader question that did have an option for patrons to add in their input. And the question was, what services would you most like the library to bring to you? Check all that apply. Overwhelmingly, the most popular option with 43 replies was the library material pickup. Folks were most interested in that option for services. And that was followed by programming, story times, or early literacy programming with 27 replies. The next most popular option was free Wi-Fi location with 20. And then we had 13 reply that they would use it for healthcare enrollment help. We had 11 say that they would use it for access to laptop computers. We had 11 say that they would use it for enrollment in SNAP, WIC, Section 8 housing, and other social services. And then we did have a number of replies that were just user generated. Some said that they wanted it for their grandchildren. Some said that while they didn't need services, they thought it would be a useful asset for senior centers to take advantage of. And some of them, they just expressed appreciation for it. They didn't actually list a service, but they said that they appreciated that we were doing it. And then we had some that said they would like to see books by mail for homebound or elderly. And I'm assuming that might be something more of a delivery than a mail situation through the van. And then the next question we had was, would you visit a clinic, food distribution site, church, or other location if the library provided bookmobile service there? And this also had a few offshoots. 35 replied that yes, they would visit those locations for services. 11 said no. 2 said maybe. Oh, I'm sorry. 3 said maybe. And then we had 2 replies that they would not, as they don't need it, but I know of several families in Odessa that would benefit. And then 1 replied, only if I need the service. I think it would be great for kids to have better access. And then our next question was about Wi-Fi hotspots. It was just, would you be interested in checking out a Wi-Fi hotspot? We had 22 say no, 14 say maybe, and 15 say yes. And then we asked, do you use the internet for distance learning, work from home, or a doctor's appointment? We had 36 say yes and 15 say no. And then we asked if we could get replies for follow-up comments. So the rest of the questionnaire involves patron information. So it was a pretty brief survey, but it did get shared. And what was really great was seeing the comments of folks who had previously used the bookmobile service that Trails offered. There were a lot of really positive comments. I didn't see any that said no in those comments. Most of them replied that it was a great service and they'd like to see it come back.
Thank you.
Sure.
Why was the bookmobile discontinued in 2004?
Why? The engine blew out. So we had to totally replace it.
We didn't think it was feasible at that time?
At that time, we thought it was too cost prohibitive.
I had some questions about the cost. You have listed the cost, but
Are these per year, per month, per quarter?
So the routine maintenance, the travel to partner sites, the idle time, and the insurance.
And the internet service as well.
And the internet service, that would all be recurring costs under different line items in the budget.
yes, but this cost, is this per month?
No, that's yearly. That's yearly.
You're only gonna spend $1,000 on diesel fuel a year?
Let it run
So
low.
the estimate for the fuel does include, the reason we're going with a diesel vehicle is because the bookmobile / digital van would be idling at these stops for multiple hours. And that was recommended by a number
This
of,
is just for the idle time, not for the amount of gas we're actually going to spend going back and forth. That's just the time that you spend sitting with the van running.
Okay, so I also had another question. In the places that you're gonna take the van, which
I don't know if that is on this map or what this map was. Is
yes,
this
the
place-
map. So it's just a proposal, but those sites are places that I had discussed with our partners. So each of those little dots on the map does represent a potential stop. And it could be more than that. But those are where I've actually talked to folks who are willing to let us partner with them.
So in addition to this, we'll add back the stops that the bookmobile had when it was in service, like Alma, Chilhowie, Wellington, like those smaller towns.
Okay.
so has anybody done any kind of a check to see if the internet that this van is gonna have is gonna be able to, will it get internet in those areas? Has anyone done a study to see? Because if people don't have internet in those areas, it's probably because the service is bad.
So,
Go ahead, Sarah.
I'm sorry, this is Sarah. So I did, I did a lot of work trying to find that out because I know for a fact, traveling around the district, it's spotty at times. The part of the appeal of this van is that it has a very special router inside the vehicle. It is custom, and it's not quite a satellite dish, but it's close enough, and it is meant to pick up a much stronger signal than we're used to getting on our cell phones. Out in I know I have trouble in like Leeton and Lexington. So that's part of the draw of having this, is that it's supposed to provide a much stronger signal.
And how many people can usually hook up to this without slowing it down, or does it have a capacity?
I know for even just one hotspot, it would be 10 people per hotspot. So the digital van, I'm not sure exactly how many could access it, but I think it would be greater than that.
Okay.
So what were you saying about Lexington?
Go ahead.
What were you saying about Lexington?
So I just personally, I know that not in Lexington proper, but kind of on the outskirts, I've had spotty cell coverage before. And I just know that's potentially a problem area. Unfortunately, with this, we really need to use it to see how it would work. We need to physically go to the locations and see. But that was part of the reason for this specific van, was that it had a heightened capacity to deliver those services in those areas where it's really spotty.
And where would it be getting the internet from?
Well, that's still kind of up in the air. We can go with the same service provider that we're using for our Wi-Fi hotspots, which is T-Mobile. But we can alter that if need be. We can test out some other things.
Well, I know T-Mobile doesn't work in Chilhowie. I doubt it works in Leeton.
And all the areas between it.
Yeah, and I don't even know Lafayette County's geography, but I know Johnson County's, and I know there's lots of spaces that you can't get T-Mobile in Latour.
We can definitely look at some other providers. Thankfully, the van is not tied to a single service provider. The router will work with any. So it's just a matter of finding the right balance and finding the right provider.
So is this, on this cost breakdown, internet service, $300, is that per month?
No, that's per year. And that's just an estimate based on the T-Mobile.
That seems like a pretty low amount.
That seems awful cheap to me.
It's based on a hotspot amount. So the hotspot would actually be what was powering the service for that. It would just be amplified by the router in the van.
And T-Mobile is known for giving libraries a good deal.
Mm-hmm. And there's also a TechSoup discount we can get.
They have a whole program specifically just for libraries. A good portion of the libraries that applied for hotspots through the state went with because they have such a good program. But like Sarah said, we don't have to use them if we feel like their coverage isn't good enough for us.
I'm sure.
So for this particular van, we did get coverage maps to see, how much of our service area would be able to use the hotspots, and it was good enough for us to go with them for those. So that's why we estimated as far as T-Mobile for this.
Is there any other institution that is using a van like this in our area?
Yes. Boone's Slick is actually.
Yeah, sorry. This is Sarah. I actually contacted a lot of libraries in our area. to see how they did this service, what their challenges were. And I spent a lot of time on the phone with Boonslick's mobile outreach coordinator about their pitfalls, what they would do if they had to do it again different. And so they are actively using that service as a hotspot, as a roving hotspot during COVID especially. And so what they're doing is something that it's a kind of a model off of them, but we're expanding it a little bit with our partnerships. They're not quite doing that. They just have regular stops. They'll stop at, a parking lot somewhere for, advertising the free Wi-Fi. So yeah, they were interested when I mentioned that we were partnering with service agencies for this.
I have done some inquiry, and some of the schools are putting these Wi-Fi things on buses and got them out where people can attach it to some buses out in the areas.
We did that in the Holden School District as an example of trying to reach out to those communities. And what we found is that it was effective in some areas, and there were other areas, and we can probably all name them, where it wasn't effective to have it on the bus. So it could be, a possibility, but it wasn't a possibility for us, for our school district.
Well, if people really wants to get on, they can go to various sites and get on. Just like if this thing here, are you going to, some people are not going to be able to get on this particular area unless they want to go to that area and get on.
Right.
Just like, I think even the libraries, you can go to, go in these around the libraries and get on to the computer system, get on to the network, website.
Well, and I think another thing is that CARES money has come through for schools in Johnson County, and there have been tremendously nice inputs in terms of financial help in getting more and better access for schools so that they can have better outreach to the kids. I know that Holden's amount was, I can't be sure because memory is a problem, but it was about $280,000. And I know Warrensburg and Crestridge and almost all of our Johnson County schools had a significant amount of money. I know our district is asking for, or part of the grant was 100 hotspots. And so I think there will be a lot of school districts trying to help in those areas.
This is Sarah again. I think those are all great examples of why outreach is so important, even for us, especially because, we do serve those folks that aren't able to be served by the schools, especially, folks trying to sign up for those healthcare enrollment, especially senior citizens. So I think this is an example of something that's working in our communities that we can help fill the gaps that the schools aren't filling.
But to be clear, our libraries already provide this service. If the doors were open, our libraries would provide this service.
Yes, but this is to partner with other organizations where people are not coming in our door. Because we can't make the assumption that everybody who needs to use a computer sign up for some sort of social service or some sort of healthcare need is going to come to the library. They're going to go. They're going to go to one of these community partners. So we're trying to reach out to these people through community partners that they already know. That's one part. Go ahead, Sarah.
Sorry, this is Sarah again. That's a great point that, the libraries, we are expanding.
Hold on, Sarah. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. One of the big benefits, I've been talking to Wills, which is the independent living solutions service that operates throughout our county and other counties. They have individuals with limited mobility, and they were really excited about this project because of the opportunity to serve folks who have different transportation needs. And that's the same with our seniors, especially, you know, if we've got folks with limited transportation who are used to using, you know, like our OATS system, or folks in the Johnson County Board of Services who I'm also talking to who, you know, they have to bus their people to and from places, and that puts a real big strain on how many people they can take and what services they can offer those folks. So this would be a really great opportunity, not just the listed organizations that I have on that map, but this is an opportunity for us to show the community, hey, do you have this group of individuals who, for whatever reason, it's hard for them to come to the library? Let's coordinate a visit for them so that they can have the same access to library services as people who can, you know, come to our parking lots, pull up and access our Wi-Fi.
It's also been mentioned to me that it looks like Trails Regional is trying to get rid of their libraries. And I would certainly hate to see that, because we are a community center for all the people in the neighborhood. I've heard that more than once, that what are you trying to do, get out of the library business? And no, I hope not.
I'm not sure what. I certainly don't.
I'm not sure how you come to that conclusion. This is an expansion of our services.
Yeah, but you also have some other things like self-checkout and things like that that you're going to be bringing to the people. And they were just concerned that we were going to shut the doors. And everything would be done online.
Self-check is in the building. So self-check will be in the building. That's not.
You don't need a very big building if you're not gonna, you know, check out that many books that are gonna come in and browse. That'll be shut down.
The assistance from these outreach, this is all still preliminary. They don't have 100,000 to give us. It's only if they get awarded the grant, which, did we not apply for the grant and was denied?
We did not apply for the grant that they're applying for because it's specifically for their type of organization, which.
So.
Well, I know, but that's not, just because they apply for it, that's not a guarantee that they will get.
That's right. I
Okay.
said that. Go ahead,
I'm
Sarah.
sorry. So just to be clear, the Missouri Valley funding that we're talking about, they have already been awarded. It's about allocating it to our project. And so the only thing that they need is the state approval to allocate that $100,000 to our project. So what I have done is I've submitted the same document that I've sent to you, the proposal, with the outcomes listed about what we want to do with it. And that just needs the stamp from the state of Missouri. That's all that we're waiting on.
Okay, so they've already received the grant. They're just
Correct.
allocating where it goes.
Yes. And they think the project is so impactful that they think that chunk, that $100,000 of their award, should go directly to us for it.
But it has to be approved by the state of Missouri.
Correct.
What organization are we applying, or will we apply for a grant to?
So, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
For this.
Okay, we're not gonna apply for anything for this
Not for this project.
$175,000.
We applied for a grant for the self-check and RFID project for Johnson County.
Why aren't we applying for anything for this?
Because there is no grant right now available. and we had the money in the budget.
If any of these outreach people, are we expecting outreach people to travel in the van to some of these locations?
You mean library staff?
No, because,
Oh, no, their staff? No.
okay, because I was gonna say,
It'll be library staff going to these locations.
well, but you kept talking about outreach people going and helping people sign up for WIC or assistance with housing or,
So if we go to one of these locations and they have a group of people that need to sign up for Section 8 housing, and they have maybe 3 or 4 laptops available, and they have 50 people that they need to sign up, we would go there for that sign-up day
for them to
and
use.
help them,
Okay,
sign up. The same way if they were coming in the library, except we'd be at that location, because that's where the experts are to help them sign up for Section 8.
okay, that makes more sense.
But I guess that confuses me, we will go to some location so people can sign up for whatever. But they're just going to be in a parking lot?
If I could, I can kind of explain what I told them when I proposed it. This is Sarah again. So basically, they would have a library day at their organization. So we have, let's say it's Head Start, which is through Missouri Valley. Once a month, there's a library day, and they can advertise that to their patronage and say, okay, this day we're going to have, maybe we're going to have an early literacy story time for kids, while at the same time, the parents who need to re-enroll in WIC can be there. The agency would have their staff there to do that stuff. The library could provide the internet. We could provide a story time. We could provide, some browsing material for them to look at, assuming, that we don't have any distancing guidelines by that time. We can also provide, a table with a laptop on it that they can access our Wi-Fi. And, at that moment, they're there for a different service, and the service agency is actually providing the service. They've got the staff, but the library is also there, providing a little bit extra support. And we're also making connections with those patrons who might not otherwise be in our buildings.
But that's going to take place in some parking lot. Do I understand that correctly?
The parking lot of the organization.
Of the organization. It's not just.
So that service is already being provided by those organizations, correct?
I'm sorry. I heard a loud. Oh, Sarah.
I said that service is already being provided by that organization currently, correct?
Well, I'm sorry. The internet and the Wi-Fi and the hotspots and the story time and the book pickup would not be.
I'm not talking about story time because I don't see how you have a story time in the parking lot. I'm talking about the service so that people can sign up for whatever they need to sign up for. That partner organization is already performing that service, correct?
Correct.
They do it on a special library day. They can get a larger crowd because we would be bringing support technology so that they would be able to reach more people on it.
So basically, they should put their schedule along with ours, and they should be at that location the same day we are, so they can do those things for those people.
We'd be at their offices.
We're gonna go to these offices?
Yes.
So if the people are already there, they can already sign up. They've already got internet in their office. They've already got.
Right, but if you have 3 or 4 computers, that means you're only signing up 3 or 4 people at a time. Whereas if we bring our laptops, they can sign up more people using our equipment.
So why can't we just do that in an existing vehicle that we already have?
We don't have.
We don't have an existing vehicle.
I know there's 2 vans that come to Holden every week.
One of them is the courier van. It's not outfitted.
Okay, but I'm just saying, why can't we just if there's a special need at one of these organizations, why can't we just haul down 10 laptops? And
Because that's the current, I'm not understanding.
it's not that complicated. If there's a one-time special need for more computers, why can't we just haul 10 computers down there?
But that van,
I have a hard time
Not
seeing
even
$200,000.
router.
Pardon me?
That van won't have an extra router to help boost the signal and to help support the use of that internet. Whereas this van will have those capabilities. And if we go, then we potentially have the chance to reach those people, and maybe they do come to the library after that and decide to check out a book or see that we have these services for their kids and bring their kids to the library the next time potentially. It also allows us to be in the very small towns like Alma and Wellington that don't have a library and have to drag their kids to Odessa or Lexington or Higginsville.
But the schools have internet systems.
Right, but it's providing library.
Alma School has the internet system.
Well, many of your
Friday.
commercial businesses do too.
Mm-hmm.
Many of your commercial business, your restaurants
They have, yeah.
give free Wi-Fi.
You know, the banks and things probably allow people to use the Wi-Fi.
People are already traveling to another town because these smaller communities don't have grocery stores or things like that. So they're already traveling to another town for those services.
Well, I agree.
I
So-
also noticed that on your map here, the southwest corner there's nothing. That's where we said we had poor communication. But it sure is full up in the northeast corner.
Well, as she said, these are just the people that she's spoken with, and we have every intention on adding more. And I said when I was talking, we would definitely have a stop in Chilhowie. So whether that's just a regular stop or a regular stop plus something that we do as a community partner, but our intention is to hit all of the smaller towns.
Sarah, are you still there?
I'm here, yes.
I have another question. How close do you have to be to this van to get service?
I can't tell you that for sure. The span should be approximate to what we have in the branches, where, you can be across the parking lot and still access that. We'll have to test it. We'll have to see, if the provider's signal is better in some areas, that might change the range. So it's going to be
if they pull in the parking lot and they pull up to the building, you should be able to get service inside the building, correct?
Are you talking about the library buildings?
No, the van. You said if we
Okay.
take it to these other services, if they're going to
Uh-huh.
be using our Wi-Fi off of the van
Uh-huh.
to help assist signing people up or whatever, they're not going to be standing out in the parking lot. They're going to be in the building. So if the
Ideally,
van-
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm trying to understand. Can you explain it to me?
Sure. So what the draw would be that we've got tables outside of the van, not in the offices, something that's visible, something that it is outside in the parking lot. They've got laptop computers. So the staff of that agency would be working with patrons outside. And basically we're both promoting each other. We're promoting, hey, this agency's got these tools to help you. Hey, the library also has these tools to help you. And it might not always be, once you've signed up for your services, you don't need to do that, every single time, but maybe you want to come and learn how to fill out a job application, or you have a resume and the social service agency wants you to, find work, or you're on unemployment. Well, maybe one of the services that we offer there is, job training, or they could use our Learning Express library database to take, their GED prep classes. It can be an evolving thing because we really do have a lot of services and programs that we offer to help these people. So it's not strictly just, come use the Wi-Fi, leave, or they already come here for these services. It's a wide range, and it's something it's relationship based. So our staff are talking to these folks all the time about what their information needs are and how we can help them. And that goes the same for the map locations. This is all very, this is just a proposal. We can definitely go to other locations where there's a need. And from the survey, we've seen that folks are interested in this. So this is just our best bet proposal for you to kind of help you understand what we're trying to do. But this project can be so much bigger and reach people outside of the confines of those dots that I put on the map. That's just my initial work. And that's only been, over the course of a few months. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, I was wondering, like, the van pulls in somewhere, and so people have to utilize the computers or whatever that you have with the van. If they have their own computer and they just want to come near the van to use the Wi-Fi, do you have any idea like how far the signal goes out that someone else on a computer could pick it up? You don't know?
I'm sorry, I don't.
Okay.
So why do we all of a sudden think that this is the library's responsibility to provide these kinds of services?
So we're, like we've been saying, we're already providing these services. This would be a mobile library where we'd be taking these services out to the community in different locations. One of the things that has come out during this whole pandemic is that the digital divide has been highlighted again. Like, we already knew it was there, but it's been highlighted since this pandemic happened. And as I was talking with other directors about how they were trying to handle that, trying to serve people while not being open, when I was talking with Linda Alcorn, the director at Boonstick, that's when she mentioned what they were doing with their mobile library, and I thought it was a great idea. And Sarah and I started looking into digital vans, and we talked with the other people in administration about it, and that's how we came up with the idea. It's not something that we would be like the only library in the world that's doing it. It's something that lots of libraries were already doing, and that a lot of libraries have requested to start to do and have begun to do, to reach out to people in the community who don't have access to these services for one reason or another. And I keep saying, there's an idea that because people know there's a library, and because people know the library has books and the library has internet, they're just going to automatically walk in the door. And there are lots of reasons why people don't go into a library. Beyond transportation, there's fear of what they don't know. They feel intimidated. So if we're meeting them where they are, if we're meeting them in organizations that they already feel comfortable having a dialogue with those people, that's part of our job. Part of our job is to get the information out there to people. So we can't always assume that everybody's going to come in to our library just because we say, hey, we're here at the library for you.
But we can't assume that just because we go park in the grocery store parking lot once a month, that they're going to go to that either.
They're gonna be intimidated as soon as they hear the word it's digital.
Well,
Another concern I have, because we aren't even opening up the libraries like they used to be. I mean, I've been called by some of the patrons, evidently, what, the election library gonna be closed on Mondays now? Some of the patrons called and talked to me about that. I don't know how they knew it. I didn't know it. And the librarian, I asked him, I said, did the librarian tell you that? No, no.
I sent the board an email about the temporary expanded hours, and I got a response from you, actually saying that you were happy to see the Saturday hours. So the hours were right there before it went out to the public.
See, to me,
We never send anything out to the public before I send it to the board.
but you're closing the election library on Mondays, right?
These are temporary expanded hours, and we put Lexington in with,
But the libraries are not open,
Yes, they are.
are they?
people can come in and use the computer and make copies and do scanning.
I don't think people are aware of it because people in Holden aren't even aware they can go in the parking lot and use the Wi-Fi.
Do they know the libraries are open?
Which brings up the question to me is, if people don't even know that you can use the library, how are they going to know that? And you say it's on Facebook constantly, people asking, if people can't figure that out, then how are they going to figure out that once a month this van is going to be in the grocery store parking lot? Or in the whatever parking lot?
How vague you're gonna be once a month? I mean, if you're going to school and all that, you gotta have computers a lot more than once a month.
Yeah.
I think we've discussed this enough, 45 minutes almost now. I think we need to make a decision on what we're gonna do.
I think it's an awful lot of money.
Huh?
I think it's an awful lot of money for such a small return.
I feel like that the library has a limited budget, and we're always going to have a limited budget. I feel like this is something that should be taken up by the county and the state or the federal should be jumping in on helping out with this. If we want to transport the van around, I would be all right with that, but I think that somebody bigger than us needs to be paying for it.
What do we need? Do we need a motion not to accept?
No, we need one too.
Huh?
May I speak, please? This is Karen Churn. When I first came to Trails in 1996, I was the bookmobile manager, and we went to a lot of small towns during that time. This is considered outreach. And when I would go to workshops at other places that had bookmobiles, they had computers even back then for public access on those bookmobiles. We didn't have the budget for that, but this is something that's been offered for 2 decades or more. And it is considered outreach to get people to understand libraries are not just buildings anymore. You have to, as Sarah said, go where people are. And I think that's what we do. That's what we're supposed to do. It's not going to necessarily be bricks and mortar anymore. You've got to figure out other ways to get people what they need.
And that's not to say we're going to get rid of brick and mortar.
No.
You know,
Sorry.
several years ago, we were in discussion with the whoever controls that community center in Wellington about putting a mobile library or like an express branch in Wellington. And I don't know where that discussion broke down, but the board had also talked about why couldn't we do the same thing in Chilhowie, like we've done in Leaton. Wouldn't a permanent facility be more logical than a van that's going to break down in 5 to 7 years?
Well, but as you said, though, I mean,
So the van is a 20-year vehicle. It does have warranties as well, but it would certainly be more cost effective than, an entire brick and mortar building. It also, allows us to do more And we would have that $100,000
Even
in
though-
funding.
Right.
That's, excuse me?
Wheaton doesn't cost us, we don't have utility expenses at Wheaton.
But we do have to earmark a collection specifically for that facility.
We will with this too. We pay a salary. for this.
My concern is, I think the ongoing cost to run this and keep it running and keep it on the road, and, you know, we're gonna have to have an IT guy, and you're gonna have to, I don't think the ongoing cost is a correct number. I think we've way underbid it. I think it's gonna cost more per year to maintain this.
Also, we have to consider the fact that the people are gonna be outside. They're not gonna be in the buildings. They're gonna be outside working on these computers and getting their stuff done. How many days are we gonna have to cut out of the year because of weather? It's too cold, it's too hot.
Or there's no privacy.
Well, that
If you
too.
go into a building, you go into a private corner and work on this, but out in the parking lot, there's gonna be no privacy.
He asked a question, you know, if we just deny this, you say we aren't interested, and we don't have to have a motion or anything to it, we just say that we, you know, that proposal thing's not gonna be approved or what? How do we want to do that?
Well,
I mean, I know we need to vote on it.
I'm not happy with the answers I've heard so far.
You what?
I'm not happy with the answers I've heard so far.
I think one thing I'd like to say, Sarah, I appreciate your hard work and I appreciate you bringing additional information. When we said last time 2 paragraphs just doesn't do it. I appreciate the hard work you put into it. But there's one thing that is really bothering me, aside from the insecurity about funds, and that is that number of people we can reach through programming online and enhancing what kinds of services the library actually provides. If you check around at other libraries, you'll see they have regular workshops, they have regular guest people, thank you, presenters. They have programming. If you want to learn about genealogy, they can provide some information for you. And I have no doubt that Trails can do that. I have no doubt. We have talented people, we have good people, and I would much rather see us invest in what we have, particularly during uncertain times and particularly with a shaky funding situation for it. It looks to me like we're just taking on an expenditure that we could be using so much more effectively. And I think a lot of your survey people are remembering the bookmobile and how it was, and it was definitely a good thing.
Oh, yeah. We all have fond
Definitely.
memories of.
And to have a survey with 50 people when we serve how many? I just would rather see us spend our money another way. And I'm sorry, I know you've worked hard. Mr. President, I move that we accept this proposal in the interest of advancing our meeting.
You move that we do what?
That we advance it. I have to have a positive motion.
Okay. So what does that mean?
That means that I can't say that we don't advance it.
But what I have,
Those of us who are parliamentarians.
If you don't agree with advancing it, when she does a roll call vote, you say no.
Well, what's advancing? You know, I
You know,
hear
she
what
can
you're
say,
asking.
no. You know, she made the motion, she can say no to it.
That's right. And we
So
need a
what-
second.
What I have is Georgia Jarman made a motion to approve the digital van proposal as presented. Is that correct, Georgia? Yeah, thank you.
We'll have a roll call vote.
I need a
Oh,
second.
a
I need a second.
Well, we got to have a second vote on, so I'll second it.
And roll call vote. I'll start at the bottom of workup. Judy Walter,
No.
Scotty Walker,
No.
Judy Tyler,
No.
Amanda Travis,
Yes.
Ron McMullen,
No.
Georgia Jarman,
No.
Harlan Dillon,
No,
Allison Burton.
Yes.
It failed. I'm sorry, it failed 6-2.
All right.
So before we move on, the 3,000, the 300,000 that we had moved over to the emergency fund, when we had it in for the digital land, you remember doing that? Okay. We can't leave it in the emergency fund, it actually needs to go over to capital expense line budget. So I need you all to vote to that, to where it should be. in the budget.
Do we have a motion to move
I'm not sure I understand where we're moving here.
the 300,000 that we moved from, that we moved into the emergency fund last meeting?
It can't stay
It can't stay there?
We didn't do that, did we?
Yeah.
What, just out of curiosity, why-
Accounting wise, it needs to be in the capital expense and not emergency. Right.
So if it moves to capital expense, what does that mean?
Listen.
It just moves
No,
there.
it just moves there. We don't have anything earmarked for it. It'll just be there over here.
We don't care where it moves as long as it doesn't get spent. Is that what we're saying?
Do we have a motion to move that 300,000 back to capital expense?
I'll make that motion.
In a second,
Second it.
any discussion? All in, a roll call vote?
Well, I got some discussion
Okay.
real quick, because I'm sorry, but some of the libraries are having problems with getting books in, doing this. She's closing some of the libraries down and things, like the Lexington Library being closed on Monday now. You know, I don't understand all that. I don't understand why that's happening.
I don't either, because NOB is going down to
Yeah.
28 hours or something like that. They used to be 46.
So I don't understand, you know, why we're doing all that and getting rid of staff and all that kind of stuff.
Like I said, they're closing the libraries.
Huh?
The rumor is we're
Well,
closing the
that's what
library.
I don't bring up. That's what I'm saying. That, you know,
Tanya, can
we're
you
just
help
lowering
us?
this money, going other ways, and but still not keeping the libraries open.
Okay,
So all of the library hours were increased from what they are right now in curbside. So as of the 21st, all of the libraries will be open more hours. These are temporary hours while we're in curbside. So
How long are we calling temporary? I mean, what's the goal we're looking for before we go out of temporary
I'm
and
not
back to
making a
permanent?
goal. I can't do that. No, I can't. I have no idea. Our plan was to be able to let people in the buildings, but
Okay,
you know,
so
we're at-
that's what we're looking at.
we're at almost 400 active cases in one county. So, you know, I'm looking for the decline in cases that was supposed to be the status that you get to before you allow people back in the building. I'm looking for our counties not to be in red before we allow people back in the building. So that hasn't happened. But we wanted to, one, address that we were paying you're paying people full-time, even though they actually were working full-time. So we needed to expand the hours so that we would be open enough hours that people are actually working what they're getting paid. So that's what we did. So everyone got more, everyone next week will have more hours than what they've been providing curbside and computer appointments now. But then as we move forward, and then we'll get back to, hopefully, I don't even want to say normal because it's not going to get back to that.
Right.
Tanya,
Was
so
it possible that they could have discussed that with the library managers before they made those decisions?
So I made the decision based on their number of current curbside appointments, computer appointments, and their interactions on the telephone with the community, and also their previous door count. We cannot rely on staff to make a decision about their hours, because if we left it up to staff, we would not be open on Saturdays.
Well, that's because they don't think we are now.
No, I'm saying we would not be open on Saturdays if we left it up to staff. If we said to them, what are your Saturday hours? Oh, no, we don't want to be open Saturday. And my understanding is that's what happened right before I was hired, that the decision was left up to the branch managers, and what we got was a hodgepodge of open hours that didn't have anything to do with their actual levels of service. So what we did was we looked at what was their level of service right now in this temporary situation we're in. And that's how I made the decision. So it's, they're temporary hours until we get to another place.
So do we hear you saying that it's very likely that we will have very little access all the way to the end of 2021?
I don't know. I don't know that.
I'm just asking, is that a possibility?
I don't know that. I'm not gonna sit here and make that kind of assumption.
That's a reality.
Because I expected us to be open by now, not just limited.
Why aren't we open?
Because we have too many cases in our county.
No, before when we asked, why were we not open? You said,
I was
We were
waiting for
plexiglass.
plexiglass, because at that time, we were in
So-
manageable numbers.
plexiglass has been installed
That's right.
and the doors are still not open. You can go to Walmart and touch everything in that store that 20,000 other people have touched. But our libraries cannot be open. And I don't understand why.
Well,
They can wear masks, they have shields, they have hand sanitizer, they can clean things, and I don't understand why the doors aren't open.
well, as I just said, I'm going by the criteria that the cases should be down a full 2 weeks.
Who set that criteria?
That's in the governor's criteria. That's in the federal government's criteria. That's in the CDC, it's in every criteria of every public health official. It's the guidelines that came from the federal
So
government.
every
It's the
other public
guidelines.
agency is open.
Every other public agency has some sort of protocol. You still can't get into UNB without an appointment either. The bank. There's
Yes,
still,
you can, because I called my bank today and they said that because Johnson County uplifted the mask mandate, that their lobbies are now open.
they told me I needed to make appointments today.
Well, I don't know where you go, but where I go, they told me their
UNB
lobbies were open.
Warrensburg. But anyway, those are the reasons. And we are not Walmart. We are not considered,
No, but we don't have the amount of people coming
And-
through our libraries that Walmart
and
does.
I'm also,
The DMV's open, you can go to the DMV,
And I'm
stand
also-
in line.
I'm also very concerned about, our staff. And we know that people are not going to wear masks and they're not going to practice the social distancing, even though we'll ask them to.
If you go outside your door, you're gonna run into people that don't wear a mask. And you're gonna we touched that door, and you don't know how many people came by this building and touched that door before we came in. That's just the chance you have to take.
It's not a chance that I want to take with staff.
Okay, even though we would move this 300,000 to the,
But you haven't
But you
finished
talk
voting
about
on
the
that.
community you wanna serve, but you won't open the doors and serve them.
we can always move it out of there. We, later on, we want to vote to move it out and put it somewhere else, right?
From capital expense?
Yes,
Yes.
because capital expense, what can't be spent anyplace, anytime, can it?
This money is just being moved to where it should be. That's all. That's all. There's no project being assigned to it.
But if you decide you want to spend it somewhere other, you can just move it out there yourself and move it.
No, I
Okay.
can't. No, I can't.
But we can vote to move it out of there if we wanted to, if you needed something or somebody needed something, we wanted to move that money to some type of fund, we can do that, right?
Well,
It's a roof
it's
failure.
supposed to go,
Huh?
Roof failure, yes.
yeah, if we were gonna use it for a project or something. But you don't want to keep changing your budget. This is just a unique experience.
They're fine, whatever. At superintendent school for 25 years, I know what you can move, how you move that stuff around. So as long as the board approves it. So whatever. Let's vote on it, man.
I'll for a vote.
Yes, roll call vote. And this is to move the 300,000 from the emergency fund into capital expense. And Carlin Dillon seconded the motion. Judy Walter made the motion. Allison Burton,
Yes.
Carlin Dillon,
Yes.
Georgia Jarman,
No.
Ron McMullen,
Yes.
Amanda Travis,
Yes.
Judy Tyler,
Yes.
Scotty Walker,
Yes.
Judy Walter.
Yes.
It passes.
7-1.
7-1, yes.
Okay, so now we're up to the audit.
Have to wake up now.
No.
It's been fascinating. I'm going to do a brief review of the audit. We won't go through page by page. The numbers haven't changed significantly. The very last thing we'll look at are the corrections that I made to the income and expense accounts this year. And if anyone has questions, wants more detail, please feel free to stop me. But I know you guys have a lot to discuss and what you're going through tonight. If you turn open your book to the number 1 page that says Independent Auditors Report, that's the most important report, the most important thing in the audit. The first page just explains what an audit entails, what management's responsibility, the board's responsibility is part of management, and what our responsibility is. But on the next page, the top of the second page is the opinion, and it's a clean opinion this year. It says, in our opinion, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects your cash basis financial position and results of operations. So that would be a balance sheet and profit and loss. So that's a clean opinion. If you want to, we can flip past all the number pages because, as I said, those are things that you've already seen. In the footnotes, the first few pages of footnotes, starting on page 7 and going for several pages, are explanatory information for a reader of the financial statements to understand how you apply your accounting policies. But if we go to page 10 is where the other footnotes, after that explanatory footnote starts.
And it just explains your cash and investments. We do include the foundation as part of the reporting entity and part of the audited financial statements. And the only thing I'll point out on that, all of your bank accounts were collateralized, except of course the mutual funds that are held through the foundation. I'm now blanking on the name of it, but the investment. Thank you, Connie, for the community foundation. The next footnote is on property tax calendar and explains what your valuation is. And then the note D explains loggers and how the loggers calculations of benefits are. We did notice that the contribution rate has been lowered. I believe next year it will go back up a little bit, so it'll be a little more expense for the library. At the bottom of page 11, I'll point out every year we have a calculation of paid time off, the vacation that's left that people haven't used. And this year it was up significantly, and it's now at approximately $100,000. What that means is if everybody quit on July 1 and you had to pay out all the paid time off, there was a little more built up, I think, this year due to COVID and the fact that people didn't take it. I think your organization's one of many, many, many. We're going to see that footnote in. On page 12, under commitments, long-term debt, we're down to one debt issue. The NOB debt was paid off this year, which is excellent. But that, boys, to me, has good information. It shows your annual debt service requirements at the bottom of that note F, and then the 5-year debt service. That note is at 3.24% and will be adjusted in 2025. So it's a pretty steady debt service for you. The bottom is a new footnote that came in a couple of years ago, and it talks about tax abatements. It's something they wanted to get out there in the public for a lot of these, primarily your cities, your counties and states, to show what taxes have been abated for economic development projects. And we work with Johnson County Economic Development Office, and they help provide this information. Lafayette County is asserted, and their audit shows that they don't have any of these projects, which I'm not sure, but that's the information we have. But it's kind of important information. If you look at the bottom of page 13, the total amount of taxes abated for your library was $158,000 approximately under those projects. And then the last page of footnotes, page 14, shows the fund balances and the way they've been set out under different restrictions and what we call committed and assigned fund balance. So your restricted fund balance, the designated gifts fund has the Martin and the Glazebrook funds that we've called restricted. The other funds we've called committed, which means the board has to act to use that money. Under assigned funds, we have branch funds, the development reserve, and the debt service reserve. The branch funds, from what I understand, that assignment may be going away in this coming fiscal year, and now the branch funds will, monies that come in the future will go to the foundation instead of the branch funds. I think we do need to address the money that's built up through the years and how that will be used. And Tanya and I talked about it and thought that should be addressed during this fiscal year. The development reserve and the debt service reserve are just annual budgeted transfers you set aside for specific uses. And then the last footnote we have is about COVID, just kind of a blanket. We don't know the effects of COVID. The next couple pages are budget information, and again, hasn't changed that much from what you've seen. You did not overexpend your budget, and that's the main thing I'm concerned with. So that's a good thing. Page 17 and 18 are the other report we make because you're a governmental entity. When we go under government auditing standards, there's two parts to it. We look at your internal controls, which are the library's procedures, And we also looked at your compliance with significant laws and regulations, things like state statute, the debt covenants, things that are in your bond or your capital lease covenants. We had nothing to report under compliance, but we did have 2 findings on the internal control procedure area. And we call both of these material weakness. If you go to the last page, page 19, the very last page, we saved the important stuff for last. Both of these are material weaknesses, which means that they have the possibility, because of these weaknesses in control, that something large enough to be an error or a fraud in your financial statements that would affect your financial statements could occur because of these weaknesses. There's other levels of lower levels, but these are things that these were in here last year, and we've made much progress. I will say that they've made a lot of progress on working through these issues, but we still have a need for a little more. The first one is on approvals. I think the focus is what I came down to at the end. I think the focus has been on making sure bills get paid, not necessarily that someone besides the accounting clerk is looking at a bill first and saying, yes, it's okay to be paid. Could be something as ordinary as utility bills, or the, some monthly payment for a repair bill that accounting clerk knows is okay, but we just aren't getting things approved. But there are things that I did see that I think should have been approved by another person, but were paid there. And then the other part of this that I'd like to see is the incidental account and the credit card purchasing, that those should be used in limited circumstances. The incidental account, when it's things, what I always understood were things that we might have a penalty or a late payment if we waited to pay them with the regular monthly processing. But there are times, and it's crept up over the last few years, I will say it goes back several directors, where it's just because I think sometimes it's easier to use the incidental account. And so I think we just ought to look at that. And the same way with the credit card purchasing, that those sometimes aren't subject to the same board review that other things are. So that's that first comment. The second one's an overall comment, and I don't know if it's better to read it, but financial reports prepared by the outside accounting firm are not subject to detailed administrative review, and procedures for routine transactions and financial reports are not documented. The effect of this, I'm going to skip the criteria because it's kind of a restatement, that financial reporting errors were not detected and corrected by staff review. We noticed numerous revenue and expense transactions that were miscoded in the accounting system. We noticed some things on the bank reconciliation. All of you reconcile your checkbooks, and the bank reconciliations are prepared by the outside accounting firm, but there were errors that dated back to the prior year that no one had corrected in the second fiscal year. And then there was items we had to correct that was the intent to move budget, but incorrectly we made an entry in the accounting system to move actual dollars, which you wouldn't move actual dollars unless the transaction really happened. So we found some things that I think are significant errors. Then in the non-routine financial reports is what I'm calling them, the foundation quarterly report, the annual fund balance schedules for the library that are part of the budget, and the designated gift fund reports had mathematical errors, things that just didn't add or did not agree back to the bank statements that were the support for them. The last thing we noticed under that effect is that the foundation made a payment of $10,000 for the Odessa loan that was supposed to be applied to principal, and the bank just applied it to the regular monthly payment and then did not invoice the library for that monthly payment. So the library made 11 payments plus the $10,000 for the foundation. So the intent of the foundation payment didn't really happen. And I think those are the kind of things with good invoice reviews and good reviews of the bookkeeping system would be caught at the time they happen. So our recommendation is for staff training, and I think that is important in accounting and financial reporting. And then I also think they should develop a system for reviewing these financial reports. And something back when Karen Hicklin was a director, we had some errors on some of these financial reports, and we talked about anything that was prepared in-house should have two eyes on it. We do that in our firm. A lot of you do that, I'm sure, in your businesses, that if I'm the one preparing the foundation quarterly report, then I have another member of my team look over it, and somebody that isn't involved in the weeds to look over that. So that's a simple thing. I think the training is a very simple thing. I will say I was out there in late July and early August working on the audit, and I noticed a lot of misunderstanding of bookkeeping or some of these financial reviews. But then when I came out to do my final work last week or the week before, I think that great strides have been made in understanding the things that needed to be done. I think Karen Hicklin came in and did some help on that and on the budget preparation. And I think some of this is just going through things 2 or 3 times. I think you lost a lot in transition from when she retired, and then we had an interim executive director, and now we have an executive director that hasn't been part of this. And a lot of this is complicated. So I think it comes, and I think it comes with time, but it is something I'd like to see some focus on and push forward on. The last thing, if you want to see this letter that's in the back, is something that came out of the fraud, big frauds and all the big companies years ago. And the letter basically, if we had problems with management, if they disagreed with us or things, would explain that, and we have no issues there. But if you look at the second to the last page, that'll just explain. I thought quickly you guys could see the corrections I've made. So the $87 we won't talk about, but the $10,000 was where you tried to move budget, but we moved expense. So for the year, your technology expense was overstated by $10,000, and your emergency fund was understated by $10,000. The debt service one is just a rebate on that knob facility, and that's kind of an annual correction I usually have to make. It's not much. The foundation debt payment that wasn't recorded, we talked about. The reimbursement, the restitution you received, I just moved that so that it showed up separately in your statements. And then at the bottom, those are the larger items that I moved because they were misclassified or miscoded. So overall, I will say there's been some great strides, a lot of work on simplifying things, and a lot more expense approvals and work on that. So I think there's great strides, and I fully expect to come out next year and to see a lot of this disappear. So, any questions for me?
So I have a question. Was the foundation donation for the principal of the Odessa loan, was that corrected so that?
I believe Tanya and I talked about it, that she was going to work on making just an extra payment from the library to correct that.
Okay.
Explain. That really is the bank's fault that error was made, but it also, I think, was something that should have been caught, again, with knowledge and with multiple eyes of people looking at things. Any other questions?
Okay. Can you answer this question about the designated gifts? The difference between restricted and committed?
The committed are the board has decided to set that money aside, and the board must act to use that money. Restricted is that the document that created the designated gift, the donor restricted at that time. I know in reading the minutes, it seems like maybe there are more that are donor restricted for specific than just those two. Back when Karen Hicklin was still here, those are the ones that she explained to me were restricted. So those are the only ones we have ever shown as restricted by the donor themselves. But again, the board has to act to use that money. That's what committed means. Restricted means that the board couldn't change their mind even if they wanted to, okay? So the board can only use those two accounts for the locations that are stated there. The committed, the board could say, we've, have this money in designated gifts. We're the ones that control that money, but we can use it for any facility
Okay.
we want. Does that help?
So, yeah, so it takes board approval for.
For both,
Both, okay.
yes. And there's a footnote A that I skipped over.
Mhm.
There's a nice explanation of the
Okay.
definitions of all those in there.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry we bored you.
I know more about vans than I ever knew. It was a good box. It was a good year. I feel like the staff are all very receptive to the work we do and the suggestions and learning. So
All
thank
right,
you.
thank you.
Thank you for your patience.
It's very thorough.
Okay, so do we need to talk about these position changes?
We first need to have a motion to accept the audit as presented.
Okay,
I make that motion that we accept the audit from Gillum and Gillum as presented.
I'll second.
motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Okay. Allison Burton,
Yes.
Carlin Dillon,
Yes.
Georgia Jarman,
Yes.
Ron McMillan,
Yes.
Amanda Travis,
Yes.
Judy Tyler. Yes. Scotty Walker,
Yes.
Judy Walter,
Yes.
motion passes 8.
All right, so do we need to discuss the policy or the position changes?
Yes.
Okay,
Not the mobile coordinator. So I gave you all, and I sent it to you and Amanda and Allison, just a write-up of what I'm going to say here. Technology assistance is an essential library service in this digital age. While all Trails Regional Library public employees are cross-trained on basic technology troubleshooting, we recognize the need for a higher skilled technology team to address in-depth and more complicated questions from the public, as well as providing technology programming at branches and at various outreach locations when the COVID situation has diminished. These positions will also be responsible for introducing new technology to the public. The need for these positions has been exposed with our planned hotspot launch and the Chromebooks we were receiving as a donation from Wills. Individuals in these positions will be responsible for answering a dedicated helpline and email account specifically for assisting the public with their technology needs, everything from downloading an ebook to troubleshooting a hotspot. The open part-time facilities and full-time circulation clerk positions we are proposing to change to these public technology assistant positions. We have recently had 2 longtime employees retire who are earning salaries way beyond the salary scale. One of them will be replaced as our technical services position as currently being advertised, but it will be at a significantly lower salary. So you can see at the bottom, don't look at the mobile coordinator, but you can see at the bottom the salary comparison. Our retired clerk, how much they were making, 40,000. The public tech full-time would be 31. And then we have that open part-time facilities tech that was gonna make 12, a little over 12,000, and the part-time tech person would be making a little over 14,000. We're gonna rehire the tech service clerk at 27, and the open full-time library clerk was making 32. So even with the mobile coordinator in that, we were coming out with a significant savings. So I'd like permission to change those positions so that we can start this new service model.
Can't hardly hear. This mobile
No,
coordinator?
not the mobile coordinator, just
Okay.
the public tech,
Okay.
technology
So that
full-time. and
mobile
public-
coordinator, not part of it. That's
Not
just-
part of it now, because
Okay.
that was tied to the digital thing.
I would point out that on the part-time public technology assistant, it lists benefits for that position.
Okay, I'll fix that, I'll fix that,
Full-time and shouldn't be.
I'll fix that.
Okay.
And then what I had attached was just an example of the types of things that we're gonna start to circulate that are technology related. And we recognize that people will check things out and they'll be like, okay, so I got it home, okay, now what do I do? And we wanna have staffing available that they can take those phone calls, and then we don't have to worry about tying up branch staff with someone who needs extended one-on-one help.
I see these as a real help to the community as well as school districts and parents who are working at home right now with kids. This is great.
There are gonna be other things, what are the other things, Sarah? Cubetos and something else?
So the initial lineup is Snap Circuits, Cubetos, and Makey Makeys, which I can explain if anyone's curious about what they are, because they've got funny names.
But they would be responsible for troubleshooting or helping walk people through these things, through the Chromebooks, through hotspots, and any other thing. You know, we'll get to a point when people are back in the building that they'll be able to, you know, make appointments with them to help them, you know, create an email. Because there are people that come in the library and don't have email and need to create an email account. So that kind of focused help, branch staff isn't always able to give them because they're helping people with the checking and checking out, use advisory and things like that. So we recognize that this new barrage of technology, we need a squad. So,
And we have tech people now? Oh, you heard?
no,
We
the
don't have-
IT people that we have are behind the scenes, they're for like our infrastructure IT. They're not public facing positions.
So this would be for public outreach.
No, they would be outreach, they'd be in-house, they do both. They would come to a branch and do a technology program instead of a
Awesome.
branch staff doing it. They may do an outreach program somewhere else. They will take phone calls. When we launch new programs, you know, they may be the ones to launch it to the public.
Mr. President,
I
I
kind of-
move that we approve this request.
All right.
Salary ranges around $73,000.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
Any further discussion? I'm just going to throw this out there. I kind of look at this as being kind of the replacement back in the old days when there were reference librarians. This kind of replaces the reference librarian. So we'll take a roll call vote.
I'm getting caught up, okay.
Did you get a second on that one?
Yeah.
Yes, Judy Tyler seconded. Okay, I will start at the back. Judy Walter.
Yes.
Scotty Walker.
Yes.
Judy Tyler. Yes. Amanda Travis,
Yes.
Ron McMullen,
Yes.
Georgia Jarman,
Yes.
Carlin Dillon,
Yes.
and Allison Burton.
Yes.
It passed 8.
Okay, changes to policy F303.
All right, so the next thing was what we discussed, the recommendation from the Personnel Committee to change the wording and policy F303 with regard to oral reprimands, to basically take out that the oral reprimand would be a document. So you can see what I put the line through, and then the new statement is, if the employee does not improve his or her performance or resolve the problem, the supervisor will move to the next level of the progressive discipline policy noted below. So that's the change that the Personnel Committee recommended.
And this is a result of our situation we had.
Make a motion that we approve policy F303, progressive discipline.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Okay. Allison Burton,
Yes.
Carlin Dillon,
Yes.
Georgia Jarman,
Yes.
Ron McMullen,
Yes.
Amanda Travis,
Yes.
Judy Tyler. Yes. Scotty Walker,
Yes.
Judy Walter.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, change to policy C104.
Yes, so we realize that as we are getting these new pieces of equipment that we're going to be circulating, that our policy actually said that we actually didn't circulate these kind of things. So we had to change that, and that's that highlighted part you see there under patron use of equipment. Library equipment specifically designated for circulation to the public, such as laptops, hotspots, and other non-traditional items, which we just went over. We'll have Chromebooks, hotspots, and all of these other different things, will be loaned according to Trails Regional circulation policies and/or procedures for that specific item, and then a reference to see policy E103, which we will also be bringing to you for changes once we get all of the policies for all these different types of things, but this had to be the first thing to change. And then we also took out the gaming equipment because we're not actually loaning gaming equipment, but even if we were, that would come under the circulation policy in the E103, so it'll be covered there and not here.
I have a question that kind of relates to this, although it doesn't. The use of the library vehicles for personal use. Also, it says that if a staff member is involved in an accident while driving a library vehicle or a personal vehicle while conducting library business, the employee supervisor or director should be notified promptly. I agree with that. However, do we ever send those people to have a drug test? Do we do any drug testing?
We do not.
I think if somebody's involved in a vehicle accident, especially if they're at fault or their carelessness, they should have a drug test. It's done in all the other companies. In fact, you can't even get hired without a drug test, most of them.
Is that something we want to add to it, or is it just something we're?
Well, it needs to be added somewhere. maybe not in this particular one, although would reference another one that had it in.
We'll look into which policy that makes sense. to
Which should
put
fit
And then
into, right.
also how much that would cost. Are you talking about only if they have an accident, or do you want to add that to the hiring process?
Well, if, I don't know how the rest of you feel about hiring Bill Blow off the street. I think the employee that we hired to run our van should definitely have a.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you did a background check on all these people. Background check doesn't tell you.
Yeah, but I think if you're gonna implement drug testing, you can't just specify for this job or that job.
No,
It
that's
has to
not
be
saying.
across the
All
board.
All employees, I mean, anyone, any
Yeah.
new.
There's an
newly
expense
hired employee.
involved.
I'm not sure what that cost would be.
Well, we'll look into that.
Just like if they have an accident, they're gonna file unemployment for.
Yeah, but normally though, when you require drug testing, you can't just specify this thing or that thing. It has to be
Across the board, right, if they have any kind of an accident on duty time, that they should be drug tested.
So you just talk about they have accident, you're not talking about when you hire someone, they have to do a drug test.
Well, to me, there's two different categories there.
We'll look into both.
See what the lawyer says.
Yeah, I don't.
We don't want to do
So the
As I mentioned to one person today, I said, back in the days, when everybody that worked in the library was a little old lady.
Yeah.
We didn't have a great need for that, but
So do we have a,
I move that we accept policy 104 changes.
I second.
Who was that seconded on the phone?
Amanda Travis.
Oh, okay, thank you, Amanda.
a motion and a second? Roll call vote?
Okay, Allison Burton,
Yes.
Carolyn Dillon,
Yes.
Georgia Jarman.
Yes.
Ron McMullen.
Yes,
Amanda Travis,
Yes.
Judy Tyler. Yes. Scotty Walker,
Yes.
Judy Walter.
yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, so what's up with the October board meeting?
So, the Lexington space is inadequate for us to space out this way. So my suggestion is we either move it back to Orangeburg, or we'll be fine in November because that's at Holden and they have, a bigger space on your main floor, but Lexington, is a challenge. So
Could we maybe move it to Odessa? Does Odessa have a big enough spot?
that's possible. We have to think about what we're gonna do with their quarantine. So here they had small enough quarantine that we could put it in that story time room, because this is normally where their quarantine happens.
I personally don't have a problem having it in Orangeburg again. I think that's pretty,
I was just thinking of the Lexington people having to drive this far. Or the Lafayette County people having to drive this far.
Orangeburg closer than this.
Is it, is it closer than Odessa?
Well, Odessa very close, but Odessa's got a small room.
Small one.
Yeah. I mean, you could go out in the middle or back, even a reading room is fairly small.
No room on the lower level that
I
we
just
can
think-
spread out.
But they got Odessa down here coming up March end.
All the furniture, and now they're, all the furniture is in one room and their quarantine is in the other. Now, right now, as the construction is going on, it's been bunched up.
That's,
We need a motion for that.
Yes, we do.
I'll do we, have the October meeting at Warrensburg. Warrensburg,
I second.
All right, roll call vote.
I'm catching up, I'm catching up. Okay, I'll start from the back. Judy Walter,
Yes.
Scotty Walker,
Yes.
Judy Tyler. Yes. Amanda Travis,
Yes.
Ron McMullen,
yes.
Georgia Jarman,
Yes.
Carlin Dillon,
Yes.
Allison Burton.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay, do you have anything more to talk about reopening?
No,
Or you're ready to
we
discuss?
kind of covered that.
Okay,
But some other things, I wanted to say, I know it worked this time, but we've had multiple problems with the mail as far as people receiving their packets. We had a library foundation board meeting and some people got theirs and some people didn't. So, starting next month until further notice and things get normal, we're gonna send your hard copy board packet to your branch. And then the branch manager is gonna contact you and arrange for you to pick it up.
and just so you know, that's the way I always got mine.
I know,
And I'm perfectly fine with that. 'cause,
yeah,
Yeah, we get mine that way all the time.
I
For
mean,
several years, I've got.
it guarantees that you get it
Yeah.
and it saves us a little bit.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Just
Years ago.
okay. And then, lastly, this just came up this afternoon, so I, tried to make an appointment to get in to the safe deposit to, put those items back. And they needed that, they needed, they're actually gonna need you to come in again, and I'll let you know when.
Okay.
But they're gonna need, because they have to redo the paperwork to add me to it. So I had to give them the minutes and my ID and all of that. So that's one thing. The second thing is, for some reason, they don't have the right people on the signature cards for the account. Even though we all went down there last September, she had Judy, Tyler, Scotty, and Catherine,
Catherine Schroyer.
Schroyer as the people. And I said, we all went down.
Yes.
So
Yeah, it's fine.
they're gonna do a little bit more research on that, but I'm gonna just let you know if something happened. I don't know what happened, but.
Yeah, because I gave them heck because their handicap parking was at the top of steps. And then you go in and you have more steps and I go like, whoa.
Yeah, so, our contact there, Misty Baker, she's gonna check and make sure that that actually was done properly, and if it wasn't, then I'll let you all know if we have to all go back down there and re-sign documents. But hopefully,
I had a question in the staff report.
Mhm.
Who made this? Roger Dumas?
our, systems administrator, the head of IT.
Yes. It said that Luke assisted Billy in moving the location of the circulation desk and public computers in Holton. So where did they move them to?
They turned the circulation desk so it's facing toward the door, and the, computers are by the door, so there's one carrel that goes this way, and then there's one carrel that faces the children's area.
Okay.
It looks lovely. You'll see it in November. It looks lovely.
if there's no further business,
If I could, before we adjourn, if I could just make a statement about my no vote on the transfer of funds. I may not totally understand how this operation goes, but I'd sure like to know what we're getting for $300,000.
The transfer of the money out of, we should have never put it in emergency funding. It should have, when we transferred it out of what I had, the line item for the digital van, it should have went to capital expense. That was a discussion we had with the auditor.
But if we're not doing the digital van,
Right,
so what, am I not understanding that that money was designated for the digital van.
But it's not going to be. It's just gonna sit in the capital expense fund. and
I
just
understand
be-
that, but how are we going to use it now as opposed to the digital van?
We won't unless, I don't know, the roof project
The roof project for
for
Warrensburg.
Warrensburg or the parking lot resurfacing here at Knob. Those are two things that we were planning to get quotes for next fiscal year, but if they come in and the money's there.
But those were things that we were going to do anyway. I really have trouble here.
In another year.
In another year.
In another
Next fiscal
year.
year.
Okay,
Next fiscal year, not calendar.
got it,
year.
got
Next
it,
fiscal year.
got it.
If
I
that money
certainly
had,
thank you.
yeah, if that money had to be spent for something, the board. will be-
Yeah, I get it.
will be approved,
I get it.
have to
Yeah,
approve it, right?
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I get it now. Thank
Yep.
you.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda and Allison, for calling in.
Thank you. Thank you.